Your week is not quite over yet. The weekend hasn't quite started. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another season of the Friday Multiclass Championship here on America's Racing League. This is round 1 of 6 at, well, we're at the new kid on the block, ultimately, as far as Le Mans Ultimate is concerned. We're at the Circuit De Barcelona Catalunya. It's a love or hate circuit, I feel like. Maybe a lot of people are mixed. I'm a little on the less love camp, but I have to say I've been absolutely enjoying driving it since its release not too long ago. The newest addition, before anybody gets confused, to this format is there's no longer LMP2 cars. They have been replaced by the big boys. The hypercars are on circuit. Lots to look forward to this evening. Not only because you get to listen to my beautiful voice, but you also get to hear from the man himself, Mr. Tyler Moore, who has temporarily, shall we say, hung up his racing boots and pulled out his microphone to join us in the box. Mr. Moore, welcome in. How are you doing?
Thank you very much for having me. I'm doing pretty good tonight. I'm very excited to be here.
Good enough. Short and sweet. To the point. I love it. Slightly unique qualifying scenario for us. Usually it is a full 35-minute split between the classes event, but because, quite frankly, not a lot of LMP3 cars just yet, they are going out with the GT3s, which may end up being a bit of carnage, may end up being a bit exciting for them. We shall see, but it is the two Magruders in the LMP2, father and son hitting the circuit, Randy and Cameron, amongst the whole host of GT3 cars. And we shall see what times start coming in as they come in. Everybody pretty much getting done with their outlaps. A few cars now engaging in a hot lap session. And Tyler, straight away, does it feel weird yet? Has it settled in that you're not actually racing tonight?
It is a lot different. It's cool to see this from the other side of the fence, though. I do like this different perspective of it.
It's possibly my favorite perspective, because usually if I'm in the race car, I'm backwards. Probably missing a wheel. I don't know, bits of the car are everywhere, but no, it's an absolute treat, and I'm glad to have you. And just so everyone has got their expectations ready for Mr. Moore. However, I believe he's going to do a great job tonight. But this is his first commentary experience of pretty much every form. So be nice. That's in order. Apparently, I'm in charge now. But no, it'll be a good time. We have a 60-minute race following this qualifying proceeding. And no crazy shenanigans, no extra fuel, nothing outside of the ordinary. Just good old-fashioned multi-class hour-long sprint race. And Tyler, I know in the previous season you championed and were actually crowned a champion in the LMP3 category, but if you were racing tonight, if you were maybe trying out for the series, would you stay in the LMP3? Would you try out an LMGT3, or would you move up to the big boys?
I really enjoyed the LMP3s. They're very easy to stay consistent in pace. I think the racing is very close and very good. For the Easter race, though, I did run, and the Sebring 2000 member race, I ran the Porsche 911, and it was actually very fun. So I think I would be willing to try out LMGT3.
All right, fair enough. And Leon Vallejo is already in chat, Tyler, welcoming you to the broadcasting world, and also saying you're doing a great job. So
thank you.
Already inspiring the masses. It's currently, well, not much between the two P3s, but it is the Ford of David Mastillo, who's currently on pole position. And one of my most favoritist things about Le Mans Ultimate as a whole, as Luz Liu ending up facing slightly the wrong way in their Lexus. But one of my favorite things with LMU, and I probably talk about it in every race, is the fact that there is such a wide variety of manufacturers that come out to play. Everybody has their own preference, but it always seems that no matter what you show up in, you are able to pull out pace, as now the Ford's been deposed twofold by the Lexus of Kanika and the Porsche of Cosio. Lots of new names out there, lots of new opportunities for me to offend people with mispronouncing their names, but see how that goes. Cameron and Randy trading times back and forth in the P3s, and let's see if I can find somebody, Tyler. I'm really gonna put you under the knife here. I'm gonna try to find somebody who's finishing up their lap, and you are going to commentate a full onboard. So be ready, basically, because now is your moment to shine.
All right.
Hope you know
here
the
we
circuit.
go. I do know the circuit. I know the circuit a little bit better in the 992, but I will do my best here. So we should be braking over at the 100 meter, downshifting the second to run through this corner. This is an interesting and very important corner to make sure you get right, because if you do not get it right, you will go off track and you will absolutely cook your tires even more so. So we have over here, we're going to be switching a little bit farther to the left, brake at that white line, downshift at the second, back on the throttle, a little twitch there, brake at the 50. We missed the apex a little bit there, but overall pretty good. He's a little bit up on his best delta. Let's see how he handles it in the sector 2. This is an incredibly important corner. If you mess this corner up, you will very likely end up in the gravel and have a nice little twitch like that. Break at the 100 here, coming into sector 3. So he is up 10th and a half, so that's pretty good. Coming through, we have another very important corner to get a nice exit out of here to get back onto the power, to get a great run into the ending of this lap. Let's see how he does.
I think you did great. I wasn't really paying attention to to Parrot driving the car, though. Their lap was good enough to put them in second for the moment. But no, Tyler, you passed the test immediately that you weren't expecting. But I'm just having a little bit of fun putting you under the knife early on, and plus, I don't know. I always like doing an onboard in qualifying at least once when I can, as one Porsche goes past another Porsche who's maybe not taking the correct line. I'm going to guess that that's maybe Brian Jones, who was, or sorry, not Brian Jones, it was Phil Brown, who was a bit out of shape. But no, I always like doing an onboard because anybody who's unfamiliar with the circuit, maybe unfamiliar with it from the eyes of Le Mans, get sort of a feel of it. Barcelona's still new enough, and get a feeling for all 14 corners that are at the circuit. And Leon, to answer your question, have I tried the official, the new official broadcast tool in LMU? It's the exact same tool. It's just got a new lick of paint. I absolutely am disappointed that they didn't do a better job improving it, because it is very limited. I will forever run the LMU broadcast control until that either catches up or overtakes, because I don't know, this is very easy to work with, very easy to get on with. It looks good enough as well, and for all intents and purposes, it gives me a good time. And if anybody has sort of paid enough attention between the LMP3s, not only do they share a name, but, well, if Randy wasn't in the garage, I could show you that they also share a livery. So the work for Tyler and I a bit cut out for us tonight. Fortunately, there aren't any other LMP3s to get confused with, but the gap's starting to open up Randy did come into this race. He did tell me, and I will tell you, with absolutely no practice. He ultimately showed up to make sure his son would have a playmate of sorts. So, nice guy for him. Cameron's still, of course, pushing for pace, and hopefully he'll have some more fighting and to join him soon. Starting to come towards the point where GTs are running out of whatever fuel that they had coming into qualifying. There's Diego Cosio pulling over. And they still have a bit of time, Tyler, before qualifying ends. And I feel like there's a certain mindset that drivers get into before qualifying, and maybe a sort of a run plan of sorts, depending on how long your session is. Are you sort of, Tyler, a guy who is just going to go out there and try to put in fast lap after fast lap after fast lap, or is it going to be sort of a let's put in a banker, or maybe it's a let's build up the pace? What's your sort of go-to?
I do the second option. I try to, as quickly as possible, get my tires in a good window, and then set a decent pace lap where I know if I do have a mistake, I have something to fall back on. And then after 2 or 3 laps, as the fuel comes down, that's when I start to push a little bit harder to try to extract a little bit more pace. I'm not a good qualifier. I'm more of a chaser than just being able to run on my own. So I don't typically have the greatest results in qualifying. So my thing is just getting somewhere where I am starting somewhat towards the front, but not destroying my tires, because I typically will also start the race on the same tires.
There is an advantage to that. You tend to have a bit more temp as you go to start the race, and or a bit of scrub from those tires that you'll get back up to temperature a bit quicker. Like a lot of people actually in Le Mans Ultimate don't realize that there is an advantage to starting on your qualifying tires. But I definitely pretty much do the exact same thing. I am not someone who has the confidence. I actually don't think it's a lack of confidence. I think it's just straight up a lack of ability to push a car to its limits in qualifying. But I do my best. I do my best to put myself in a good position. Like you said, Tyler, and just sort of feel my way into the race. I like to think I really come alive once the green flag waves, and I think a lot of drivers maybe thinking the same. Couple more minutes, a couple more laps from them. The top 3, as it stands, is Mickey Kaijalin, Guillermo Perez, and Diego Cosio, who are all in the pits, as I say that. Dean Muslio, rather, is jumped into pit lane now. Or sorry, that's the driver we're on board with now. The Mustang of David Mustilu is the one who just entered pit lane. I think everybody sort of, they were prepped for a bit off. That's something that can and will happen in turn 1. You take a big bite out of the entry curb, and maybe you might swap ends. But I think, Tyler, a lot of them were ready for that sort of, 12 minutes, 13 minutes of qualifying as it usually stands, and they sort of are feeling that that's all they needed to do. So I don't think we'll be seeing much more effort, as more wiggles coming up the hill from the Mustang of Prado, and I do think it's just about gonna do it. Nobody really lighting up the sector times late enough. Cameron Magruder, the only guy who maybe is finding a bit more pace. If you were Cameron, Tyler, I gotta ask, and you're racing against your dad, are you gonna sandbag a little bit? Are you maybe gonna make him feel a bit better, or is it just full? I'm gonna crush this guy.
No, I'm crushing 100%.
Good answer. Very good answer. Only a pair of cars, I think, on circuit now. Rob Ruggiero, a car that I've sort of become deeply familiar with, the Crayola BMW. I just see him a lot. Just about every LMU series nowadays. This guy's whipping around and whipping it a little bit too hard out of turn 12, but I know that Rob is a driver that has a lot of pace, and maybe they could come alive, Tyler, in the race, or Barcelona's not their track. It's still new enough. As you can see, people are still struggling.
I think one of the big advantages to this track is in racing, it has a lot of overtaking opportunities, a lot of places where you can quickly make up time. So I think the race itself is going to be where we see a lot more action come down between these drivers. The gaps between all of the drivers is pretty low.
Yeah, it is sort of impressively close. You can see the top 5 separated by 3/4 of a second, and I think just an outlap for Dean, but they're going to pull into pits, maybe call it a bit of pit lane practice, though they're not really entering the pit lane in anger. And I do have to say, I'm not the biggest fan of Barcelona as a circuit, but I absolutely love the pit entry. It is so much fun. Most pit entries, that's how I know you're deeply familiar with this sort of, you're not really entering it at race speed, and it's not really a entry you can attack. But Barcelona, though, pure pace, especially in a hypercar. You're absolutely getting it down towards pit lane. And will we see some penalties? Maybe a drive through, maybe a stop and go for those that don't make it on the fuel. Only time will tell.
Yeah, the pit entry for Barcelona has the perfect position for the white line that separates the track for a GT3 at least. You can floor it all the way to that full stop with the ABS, and you will perfectly line up to pit lane speed without having to guess whether or not you're going to make that drop to 60 kph. So it's a very great entrance to. I think it's a good circuit. It's got character, and it's got a lot of places where you can make some great overtakes on the same class. But I think with the multi-class, it does become a lot more difficult. The closing speeds of the hypercars is going to change up how they need to take their lines with the GT3s and the LMP3 in this case. So I'm curious to see how that's going to play out. There was a lot of chaos with our Easter race. So.
Oh yeah, chaos is certainly, I think, was the word of the evening for everybody. I think very few drivers sort of made it without any sort of spin, any minor incident here or there. But it was a lot of fun and a good way to kick off the new circuit. As yes, Leon, not the biggest fan of Barcelona. I haven't liked it it's not even, I thought LMU would make me like it a lot more, but well, that is an interesting entry into turn 1 for Ricky Bobby. Not entirely recommended, though. It is worth noting the hypercars are going to need another lap or two before they're really up to true temp in their tires, so they can really start to push. So we'll sort of see a bit of dawdling for maybe another lap or two for a lot of them, so I wouldn't be worried for the Ferrari driver. So far, Tetsuo Hideyoshi, the man in the LMGT3 field, saying his setup doesn't feel super balanced, and he's struggling a bit. And I have to say, it seems that some of the, whether you're creating a setup, whether you're ripping it from a setup shop, it doesn't seem that all the setup shops have really found a good way. I feel like the hypercar setups are in a lot better shape than maybe some of the LMGT3s are. Well, I have a very narrow lens, but apparently Ted's getting angry at me right now because he's trying to stream iRacing. But I'm gonna say to him, we were here first.
We were indeed.
But we'll see. Ricky Bobby, he's gonna be one of the first to cross the line, though. That's gonna invalidate his lap out of the final corner. Nope, it still actually stands. So the benchmark as it is for all the hypercars to chase, as I'm getting a bit of a name correction for Dean Musliu, as I'm saying it now. But I appreciate you, though, not envying me having to pronounce everybody's names. And honestly, I say at ARL, I have the much easier side. I do a lot of commentary in European leagues, and a lot of those, the Polish names, a lot of Belgian names, a lot of Eastern European names in general. There's a lot of consonants and not enough vowels, or sometimes too many vowels. It's a whole thing, but I do my best. As long as I'm confidently wrong, then I sort of have a better way. I think as next question for you, Tyler. I feel like I'm sort of interrogating you here, but it is sort of our first time interacting, and get a feel for who you are. Favorite hypercar, go.
Oh, definitely the Porsche 963. It may not be the best looking, but it is a very good sounding car, and they just dominate. I mean, in IMSA and in WEC.
But they aren't in WEC anymore. Rest
Yeah,
in
I was really
peace.
sad about hearing that. That was a real big bummer for me.
Yeah, it seems that we're like getting 3 new. Well, the Genesis is this weekend making its debut in WEC, but the word on the street is maybe the Acura program and IMSA is sort of starting to go away. Alpine, I'm pretty sure, is going to be gone out of WEC at the end of the year. So we're getting new teams, but they're sort of losing some as well. I was hoping that maybe we get like 13 different manufacturers and hypercar across both fields, but I don't know. So you said it's not the best looking, the Porsche. What is the best looking hypercar, in your opinion?
I think the older BMW, I think has that for me.
The big
the
sniffer.
New one, yeah, I just like the square edges. It kind of gives me that older LMP2 vibe, or the LMP1 vibe. The newer cars just kind of don't look like LMP cars. Like they do, but they don't have those old characteristics, like the nice flat shapes. They've started to transition to more smooth lines, like you can see here with the 963. And the headlights kill me. I much prefer what they did with the LMP1s, and even the DPIs from IMSA.
I think that's fair. Definitely a man of distinguished taste. Not just, hey, look, new is better. Honestly, I don't actually. I asked the question of what's the best looking hypercar, and I actually don't know what my pick would be. If I had to, if the gun was to my head, but I don't know. I've always been partial to the way the Cadillac looks. Also the way the Cadillac sounds.
Oh yeah,
it does make a good noise, though. We are lacking a Valkyrie out there tonight, so I guess the Cadillac's the best sounding car on the field. I've sort of come to enjoy the way that the Peugeot 9X8 looks, which is the car that's on screen. Once you take that livery off of it, it suddenly looks a lot more attractive, and I feel like the Alpine's the same way. The Alpine looks the worst on within its actual livery, but also I drive the Peugeot a lot, so maybe I've just come to enjoy it. I'm also currently working on a livery that is that is Acura ARX inspired, but on a Peugeot, and I may be biased because I've spent far too much time on it, but I think it looks pretty good. And now I'm gonna take my moment of ripping an onboard lap. Now that we're in the hypercars, and I feel like I'm in good steads to talk about a hypercar going through a lap into turn 1. You are braking earlier than in an LMGT3, but you can almost push it to the 100. Very smooth on the power coming through the chicane, and then it's very much a management through turn 3. The downforce definitely keeping you in good steads. Another late but earlier break for turn 4 than what we saw in the Lexus earlier on. trickiest corner here for the hypercar, I think, is turn 7, downhill braking zone. Not a lot of good braking markers and no ABS. So once you start locking up downhill, it's gonna keep locking up. Turn 8, I think tricky in every car just about. You really don't want to go over that sausage curb on the exit. Can really unsettle the car. One of the most fun corners in a high downforce machinery, and interestingly, Sanabria applying a bit of brakes. I've seen a lot of different ways of doing it. That's not how I would do it, but we'll see how it works for him throughout the lap. He's very much up on their time through the hairpin at turn 10, 11, and now 12. Possibly my least favorite corner on the circuit. It just stinks. No chicane, which makes everybody in the world happy, for 13. And then through to 14, a little dab of a brake, but it is really, really quick for these hypercars. And we'll see where that lap puts him. It is a 32.2. Tidy, but maybe not the quickest we've seen so far. That puts him 5th. A bit off the pace, though, Tyler, and 5.5 to go. Still pace to be found, and I think, though, Barnes might be finished up, so maybe a bit of room for improvement. But Ricky Bobby's a man on a mission.
Yeah, it looks like Sector 2 is where Barnes is making up the most of his time. He is up 2 seconds and against some of the other drivers in Sector 2. So I'm curious to see what he's doing different in that particular portion of the track to make up that much time.
It's kind of interesting because Sector 2, a lot of times you're spent on that back straight, but I think turn 7 and 8, that sort of awkward chicane really can make or break a good portion of lap time. And see, Ricky Bobby curiously not using all of the circuit, coming into the braking zone, maybe knowing something that we don't. Certainly have driven a good amount of the circuit in a hypercar, but I am by no means quick. I think I'm just trying to remember what my qualifying time was for the 4 hours of Barcelona. I don't even remember, but I certainly know that it wasn't a 1:30.8. That is very quick. But I think Ricky Bobby invalidated his lap earlier on. Well, it was a null improvement on that previous. But I'm curious. I'm sure, Tyler, you've seen some of the enormous amount of clips going around the internet of what sort of chicanery has happened at Turn 1 in Barcelona in daily racing. I mean, do you think we're going to see any of that here tonight?
I think we will not see that. We have a long-running history here at Friday's Multiclass of making Turn 1 without any crazy incidents. Hopefully, it does not turn into the 4 hours of Barcelona ELMS race, because that was obviously a public lobby that they just gave real cars to. I don't think we'll see that tonight. I think Turn 1 will be clean. I think what we might see is something in 7 and 8.
I think that's a good shout. I think that's where everyone really will start stacking up, and some people like to go for moves into turn 7. I absolutely despise it because it just seems like a bit of a rush job when that's done. Bobby, though, about to come across the line, a bit of improvements, and it's back up to second, 10th and a half away from pole, and it doesn't look like Chris Barnes is coming back out. So the man in the Ferrari, the man in the Porsche of Bobby and Wagner, if they can find it, they might be able to have it. Though Paul Wagner, very quick in Sector 1. Tyler losing it a bit in Sector 2. So it seems that that's the nemesis of a couple of our guys tonight. We'll see when he comes across the line. Is it enough in Sector 3 to make that jump? No, it is well down into Sector 3, but Good news is, if the fuel is on board, if there's enough fuel on board, 2 more laps for Porsche driver. And I know we talked about the livery earlier on, before we went live, and it still looks good. I think it looks great. I think it might be the best livery out there tonight.
Yeah, this was the one that we based the 8 hours of Bahrain on. We just changed up a couple things, threw some ARL logos on there, and it was a very nice looking livery. Made it the full 8 hours of Bahrain. Not the greatest result. I think we were P6 in that race, but it was a fun time.
Well, when you say,
See,
there's trying to push for lap time in the second sector, that'll get you on 7. When you say you made it the full 8 hours of Bahrain, don't you mean the full 10 hours of Bahrain? You would be about 2 hours short.
No, that was we did the 8 hour race for that one. This was one of the first endurance races.
Oh, okay, the one that was way back when, almost a year ago. Well, I think maybe even over a year ago at this point. There you go. That was...
Yeah, it was just before the 24-hour race that we made 18 hours of for that race. But we started, I believe we were P4, and we had some incidents with some tire troubles halfway through the race. We miscalculated how many tires we had available and pushed a little too hard at the beginning. Lost a lot of time because we were trying to basically triple stint the tires just to keep them, so the last hour we would have a fresh set of tires for me to finish the race out. So yeah, I think the large portion of the issues that these guys are having here is turn 7. That quick transition back to flicking the car to the left is causing a lot of weight transfer.
Yeah, it's sort of it's a bit of an awkward corner because it's there's sort of 2 stages of it, and there's a big apex curb and then an incredibly dangerous sausage on the exit. So it's all about nailing it. We'll see if Wagner's got it in him. He's the last car on circuit, so all eyes are on him. It is... Oh, I was about to say it's looking a little bit quick. Didn't look like the car was quite slowed all the way down, and it certainly wasn't. But that will bring the qualifying proceedings to a close, and pretty much every single race I cross my fingers and hope that the results populate and show and everything's beautiful. We'll immediately head on to the results in qualifying, beginning with the hypercar field. If I can hit all my buttons correctly. 5 of them showed up tonight. I know that quite a few signed out for the 2.4 hour races that are going on. There's also the 8 hour Team Champ race tomorrow morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you decide to change that. So a couple people missing. Hopefully we'll get some more throughout the season, but it's Chris Barnes for pole in round 1. Ricky Bobby close, but not quite close enough, joining them on the front row. Paul Wagner thought that maybe there was some pace in it, went maybe a bit over one too many times, left the tires in a bad way, and probably won't be starting on those as we spoke. Ian Almo in the caddy is in 4th, and Javier Sanabria in 5th. Maybe a bit of pace to find. Maybe a bit of life will be found in the race. The LMP3 is a little bit lonely, but I can guarantee that it's wrong because Cameron Magruder's on pole. So, as I feared, qualifying has borked itself. So, that is that. I won't even bother showing the rest of what we got, and I will just simply read it off of my screen. It is Mike Kajnen on pole in his Lexus, followed by Guillermo Peretz on the front row. Rafael Canica in 3rd, Diego Cosio in 4th, David Mastillo in 5th, Brian Jones 6th, Phil Brown in 7th, Dion Musilu in 8th, and Gabriel Prado 9th, and Andre Lloyd is in 10th. I believe that's everybody who started, possibly Andre Lloyd. He wasn't here. No, actually, no, I'm incorrect because Todd Tillery in 11th and Rob Ruggiero and Tetsuo Hideyoshi are all here. How could I forget about them? I spoke about them earlier on. About a minute remaining before the formation is underway, and for some reason, Tyler, we're staring at a bunch of trees. But any early race predictions? I mean, qualifying is sort of an idea of maybe what's to come, but I mean, any wizardry, any crystal ball? Is the crystal ball telling you anything about tonight's race?
I think it's going to largely come down to strategy for this one because it is a 60-minute race and we can't one-stop this. And all three, well, LMP3s are going to make it through without a pit stop regardless. But the hypercar and LMGT3, it's going to be split between who does a good strategy call. I think at a raw pace, the qualifying is going to show who would be out front for that. But this is a multi-class race and multi-class give and multi-class take. So it's going to be an interesting one for sure. I don't think I have any predictions.
Whether or not you know it, you just stole my favorite line to ever say on a broadcast, which is multi-class give it and multi-class take it. But I suppose I can't.
That's because I took it from you.
Yeah, I know. But it is worth saying every single car, of course, the LMP3 can make it. They can pretty easily, you can fuel save that car at almost 75, 80 minutes per stint. It's pretty trivial to get it an hour. In fact, it's kind of difficult to not get an hour out of a tank of fuel in an LMP3, but the hypercars and the LMGT3s absolutely can make it on fuel. You can make it, it's a little trickier in the hypercar. You got to work a little bit harder on your Lyco, but the LMGT3s can make it, will make it, but it's always a call, as you said, Tyler, of who is going to get their strategy right. A couple of hard tires in the hypercar field, which I'm a bit surprised. I know the front left takes a bit of a punishment, but running hards on both sides, we'll see how it pans out. Maybe push harder for longer, and perhaps not doing any fuel saving for them. An early drive-through in LMGT3, and a really, really good start from Chris Barnes. And the Cadillac already on the attack, and we're 3 wide going into turn 1. I'm going to peek through my fingers here as they all break at different points. I think we're going to make it through cleanly. There's Wagner trying to find their way past the end. Oh, all right. That was weird. We're fine. It was Paul Wagner, though, trying to make it through on the Porsche, or on the Ferrari, excuse me, and fell back immediately behind the Peugeot. So Sanabria is up 1. Our pole sitter is sitting still pretty, and the Cadillac of Ian Almo making up moves immediently. And Tyler, we can see everything was clean up at the top for the hypercars, and I have a sneaky suspicion that is the same case for the LMGT3s.
Certainly would appear so. It looks like we had maybe one potential contact going into turn 1, but it looks like everybody made it through unscathed.
Yep.
So we will continue to keep that long-running tradition of turn 1, lap 1 being nice and clean.
Yeah, and I think that's a great thing to say about your field, and a great thing to say to know you can trust your drivers going into turn 1. That's one of the great things of running a league race, where you sort of have a feeling about your drivers, and I don't have to be afraid of the braking zone in turn 1 like you do in most daily races, but no, very clean for everybody. Maybe Randy off to a bit of a slower start in the P3, but nobody backwards really, and it's a Lexus 1, 2, 3 at the moment. The Lexus sort of it's been a favored car for admittedly quite a while in Le Mans Ultimates, but at Barcelona tonight, it's still favored. It's still absolutely favored, but they might be without you tonight, Tyler, but they are, as you said, keeping the tradition going and keeping it clean, keeping it hard, keeping it fair, and I'm almost certain that we're going to get some really good fighting on our hands.
I look forward to seeing it. Yeah, that is a very, very good thing to see, though, and I have noticed that over the course of my time here at ARL, we have done a very good job of instilling a good, clean competition among pretty much all of our drivers. With the stewarding that we do too, that has only increased that tenfold. And we've had 2-hour races with, I mean, you get some argy-bargy racing, some side-to-side contact going through corners, but for the most part, we have very good, clean racing here. And the competition is incredible, as we see with the qualifying that we just watched.
Yeah, it's super superb, and already a bit of a moment for Javier Sanabria. That's ladies and gentlemen, that is not the 2023 spec Peugeot without a rear wing. That's the current spec lacking a wing. So a bit of a tricky start for Javier, and we'll take a quick peek and see exactly why and where he ended up where he is. It's just actually a huge moment through the final corner, and you got enough momentum there that once you're sideways, the gravel will slow you, but it will not stop you. You are always going to make contact with that wall and very regularly end up without a wing. Hopefully, though, they were able to... well, you can't quite get into pit lane from there, which is a bit of a shame. So it's going to be a slow lap for the man in the pug, and we shall see where they're able to get to towards the end of this race. The hard tire, though, for Ian Elmo is really working. I was skeptical, but I think, actually, now that I'm able to see this car, it does look like hard's on his left, but he's got those yellow sidewall mediums on the right side, which is a lot more of what I was expecting from a tire strategy, and I do think that might serve him well as we get through a bit later into the stint, Tyler, as well, we're still going at it as the fight for third, and front engine V8 versus front engine V8, just in slightly different shapes.
They seem to be running very consistent with their pace too.
Yeah, it's sort of, consistency is the name of the game. I feel like consistency is what is gonna make or break the good from the great as drivers. Yeah, you can go fast, but can you go fast all the time? Can you go fast consistently? Can you be comfortable? As Mastillo sort of sized it up into turn one just a little bit, but didn't quite have the go. He certainly, man, the Mustang having to sort of keep one eye in front, one eye maybe in the rear view, because the Porsche of Diego Cosio they're absolutely there. They're absolutely hungry, and if anything goes wrong, any minor mistakes, the Aaron Dames machine is going to find their way through. Bit of dirt, bit of dust being kicked up from some of the cars ahead. But we'll see what it looks like coming into 7. Excuse me, coming into 10. We're in the third sector now. But it is a bit of a game of patience at Barcelona. There are a lot of opportunities to overtake, but putting yourself in a position to make a smart move, to make a safe move, is a whole another order of magnitude, maybe a bit wide for the Mustang, and we'll see what the straight line performance is between the other. And it sort of seems that even with the Mustang firmly in the tow, it is the Lexus that has the pace up in front. So we got a couple of replays of moves being made. Here's the most recent one. Tetsuo Hideyoshi on Lloyd, and I'm going to guess that Lloyd was in pit lane. That's why... Oh, no. Lloyd's just going really, really slowly on the inside and almost letting Tetsuo Hideyoshi through, so a bit confused by that one as a whole.
Going pretty slow.
I wonder if maybe a bit of an issue, maybe a bit of a... I don't know. Benio Almo in the hypercar, though. He's going quick, going quicker. As I sort of figured this would be the case. Cameron's a bit quicker than his dear old dad.
Yeah, that's quite the gap to pull within a short 9 minutes.
Yeah, I sent Cameron a message earlier on. He was asking if I would be streaming, as they usually do, because they enjoy watching the streams after the race, as do a lot of drivers, which I appreciate, because it means that, I don't know, at least it's interesting to some people care, I suppose. But no, I told Cameron my instructions for him was don't be a dingus. That was it, because as long as he doesn't crash the car, I don't think there's going to be much for him. First bit of multi-class we've seen all night. It's Cameron sweeping by the BMW of Rob Ruggiero, who he seems to be a bit on the struggle bus this evening. As David Castillo on the front of the field, he had a big incident. Really long, prolonged yellow flag. Oh, what?
That was quite a big one.
Yeah. Hold on just a moment. I need to witness that again. This time from the onboard. That's not the onboard I want. So, that'll do it. I'm not sure which Lexus that is, though, which is sort of the question. I think it was Mike Kajlanen, maybe. You can see the wheels still on the circuit. So let's see now. I think it is Mike. Yep, that was Mike, who ended up going a bit backwards coming out of the penultimate corner, Tyler, and well, it was shaping up to be a heck of a fight between the Ford and the Lexus. It was already well underway, and maybe a bit robbed, maybe a bit of right place or wrong place, wrong time for the Mustang.
Curious as what caused the rear end to kick out on Mike there. He seemed to have a really good grasp of getting through the penultimate corner. Maybe just a little bit too much curve coming out, or potentially maybe that curve right there.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it was a mixture of curb and maybe putting one of those rear tires into the gravel just a bit, but to sort of end up spun around but not carried further is the sort of question. And I wish I could pull up the moment that it all initially went wrong for Mike, just so we could all see, but unfortunately it doesn't seem like I can, because I don't have any sort of incident on my screen. Here's the second bit of multi-class we've seen all night. This is when, for hypercars, it can all sort of change in an instant. I mean, you see Ian Almo just behind the gap, you know, thereabouts a second and a half, but you know, once you start getting involved with traffic, that's when, say you know, you catch a GT3 going into this corner into turn 9, and you're severely at a disadvantage to your rival. And it is one of the most beautiful things about this kind of racing, is the reverse can happen if you're in a GT, and maybe you get overtaken by a hypercar, maybe you come across an LMP3. It would make it all happen. As the wisest man in the comms box said, multi-class give and multi-class take.
Interesting. It looks like the tire change must have came up now because it looks like Almo's actually got higher pace, but it doesn't appear to be doing as much fuel saving. It's a very small margin in between them, but it looks like Barnes is a little ahead on the energy saving. I'm curious how much Lyco they're doing.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be the make or break. If any of these hypercars, we got a really nice gaggle of GT3s to sort out for the race leader, and see, this is not somewhere you really want to catch, and not somewhere you really want to try and overtake some GTs. And here goes Barnes, and Ian Almo, you can see he's right on the back. I spoke about it and it ended up happening, as if I have a crystal ball, but no, I think that's going to be the make or break moment, is as any of these hypercars are going down pit lane, and honestly I think it's the same in LMGT3. They are not winning this race. I genuinely think, oh no, it's gone wrong for Ian Almo. In turn 10, I think he locked the rears. He's getting a bit ahead of himself. He's deep in the dirty air of the Porsche. It swaps ends on him. I think it's a bit of a sigh of relief maybe for Barnes, but no, I think if anybody's going down pit lane tonight, I don't think, Tyler, they're on the winning strategy. I mean, what's your bet? Do you think that somebody could pull off a full push and a splash to win the race?
I don't think so. I think with the time loss, with how short this track already is, I think anybody that does need to dive into the pits is they're gonna be at a disadvantage just because of the race length. It looks like pretty much everybody's roughly on the same amount of energy, so it looks like a consistent energy usage across the board. Lowest is 75, so they may be able to continue pushing at their current pace and still make it all the way through. It'd be a close call at the end, but I think they may be able to make it. So whether or not they can keep their tires in consistency and not lock up and cause any more tire wear than normal to lose pace, I think they may be okay.
Yep. Tire wear is absolutely a huge factor at Barcelona. From my very rough estimate, I would say it is the second, possibly the second highest track for degradation behind Qatar. Especially in the higher downforce machinery, you're just dragging your outside tires for these long corners, and you're doing it the same way in the LMGT3s, but just not to the same extent. Tyler, if you don't mind waffling for a bit, I am having a bit of a technical issue that I need to diagnose, so give me like 40 seconds of the best thing you could possibly think of.
Well, I think an interesting thing to consider with the tire wear on this track is that Barcelona was actually resurfaced not that long ago when they did the layout change as well. So I think the new wear asphalt is also going to add to the level of wear that these tires are going to go through, in conjunction with the incredibly high downforces that these cars are pushing through these corners. So, and there's plenty of opportunity to get a nice amount of slip angle to keep a good bit of speed carried through these corners. So I think the tire wear is going to play a much larger factor, and the guys running hards are going to be at an advantage when it gets down to, I'd say, the last 15 minutes or so, when we see these tires actually worn out and how their pace difference is going to be. So,
yep. And thank you for that. I fixed what I needed to fix. I had things set the wrong way. We're good to go. I see all the important thing in front of me. But no, I think you're absolutely on the money. It's going to be sort of that final 15. Fuel's really starting to burn off, and you're trying to pull out that last bit of pace. You know, are the mediums going to hold off? Ian Almo, though, having been backwards and almost into the side of the Porsche, a couple laps later, already back within a second, and there is a difference in virtual energy between the two. I mean, it's about a 1.2% difference if we're really being technical about it, but that's not at the moment the difference between a lap. It is about 3.7% virtual energy, if I remember correctly. Or sorry, not 3.7. It's 2.7% sort of virtual energy on a push lap. Nobody's quite doing that at the moment. Everybody on that save, and everybody I think is doing well. Really looking down the field, it doesn't look like anybody's gone for a full push. Maybe a pair of GT3s are giving it that try, but we'll definitely see how it plays out as we get along through. As Rob Ruggiero pulling over and really waiting and letting them through. Not something you necessarily need to do, but I'm sure both drivers appreciate it. We're jumping back a bit further in LMGT3. I don't know what the cameras are doing, but it's not showing me what I want. That's all right. We'll ignore it. It's the Mustang of Gabriel Prado chasing down Phil Brown. You know, the gap stabilized for a little while, but now it's really gotten close on this last lap. Both sort of out of shape, but pointing in different directions. A big, heavy 5.4 liter V8 up front versus a 4.2 liter flat 6, and I think that, well, it looked like they were a bit closer than they actually were on the exit. But interestingly, Tyler, both black and gold, and I don't know about you, but I think black and gold is a very good color combo.
I agree. It's classy and elegant, and it just looks good, especially on the Mustang.
I agree. I think it looks really good, and I will say it is a bit tough to get a really nice gold in LMU. I've tried, and I think going for like the almost duller brown kind of gold that's on Prado's car is sort of the better way to go. I may or may not have produced a Ginetta livery that was inspired by the Rich Energy Haas F1 car. So I know my way around a black and gold car. However contentious that whole deal was, it was a great looking car. But Barnes at sort of towards the rear of the field actually is. I'm sorry, I'm confusing Barnes and a driver that is in my head that doesn't exist in the LMGT3, but Chris Barnes going a bit quicker that last lap. Maybe a bit scared, perhaps, by the incoming nature of that Cadillac.
Interestingly, it looks like the driver we have who's retired earlier has repaired and has now set the fastest lap in LMGT3. So he must have dove back into the pits, got that repaired, and he's hungry for getting back onto the grid to make it back into the top 10.
Yeah, I mean, Mika Kajinen, I believe, started in 4th, 5th position, maybe? After qualifying, and definitely has good pace. And if not for the spin in the missing tire, almost certainly would be a bit further ahead. Doesn't seem like Prado's really able to hang with the car ahead, and is maybe getting to the point where the eyes need to start going into the back of their head as Todd Tillery and well, I'm not sure who that Lexus is, quite honestly. That could be Mika Kajinen, but I don't think it is. It's not. Oh, because he, of course. Which Lexus is that? I think it is one that's on a different lap. So it isn't a race for position for Todd Tillery, though he is looking ahead. Yeah, I'm not sure who that is. somebody. But it is Dion Musliu is who that is. The car in 12th, who was running up quite further ahead, I must admit. Now that I do see a bit of a incident on screen, perhaps we'll see where it went a bit wrong for Dean, and it's too much of the curb into one. Around she goes, just barely staying out of the wall, but that would explain the sudden drop in position. Fighting their way back up to the field.
The name I'm seeing quite frequently on the tower here is Tetsuo Hideyoshi. Has made quite a number of overtakes. Got himself back up to P8. Not sure where he started. I know he started near the back, but he is
at the back of the grid for Tetsuo. Fully in. He was on the last spot of the grid. He was in chat saying that the setup was a bit tricky, and as it sometimes is, as I think that might have been the Peugeot of Sanabria who just, yep, he'd see him just barely in the back of the back of shot. We're just overtaking Tetsuo and went left instead of going right, pretty much. And unfortunately for Javier Sanabria, that is the end of their race tonight. Though, I will say, Luis Carmona has come to replace the fallen brethren, showing up a bit late to the race, admittedly, but still coming out and giving it a go 6 laps down. That is something I enjoy to see, Tyler, and I think a good representation of commitment.
Lewis was our winner for the 2000 member race. I believe that was his first race with us, and he came out and dominated in the LMP2 class. So definitely has pace. I don't know enough to get down from 5 laps in a short period of time. I think if this was a long race, he'd have a real good shot at getting that pace back up. I'm curious to see what his pace is in the hypercar.
Yep. I'm also curious by the fact that this is the wingless Peugeot. This is the one that came without the wing. That Carmona's driving, and of the two, generally not the favored one, but still an incredibly unique car. I think it is absolutely ridiculous that that Peugeot developed a hypercar. Oh, I saw the gap starts to come back down for Prado, but it's gone the wrong way. A huge wiggle for them, and Todd Tillery squeezes through. You know, as I was saying about the Peugeot, they designed a hypercar pretty much for Le Mans. That was the whole point. But it's still a stable enough platform that without a rear wing, it wasn't competitive, but it was able to stay on the ground and ultimately not take off. You're used to race cars, Tyler, with these absolutely honking rear wings. They do serve a purpose, and I think Peugeot learned their lesson, because now there's a big honking wing on the back of the new winged 9X8.
Could be wrong, but I do believe that the original design of the 9X8 had some sort of like a ground effect to it with underfloor tunnels that was giving it an extra range. But obviously, if you're not running in a long straight track like Le Mans, you're still going to suffer without having that rear downforce coming from the wing. I don't think it was creating quite enough. I could be wrong on that. I do remember seeing something about the floor being a little bit more complex than the other LMH cars the 2023 season.
Yeah, I wasn't as clued into endurance racing as I am now, certainly, but that would make a lot of sense in order to, rather than channeling air over a rear wing to produce most of your downforce, channel it through the floor. It could work. It, I would argue, did in its own sort of way work, as Chris Barnes is going to make his way through on some more LMGT3s again. I've spotted that Ian Almo is, well, not quite as close as he was earlier, Tyler, and I think here might be a representation as to why. Oh, yes, yes, yes. Yeah, that's coming up the hill. Turn 12.
Quite a lot of hopping there.
Yeah, just skipping across the gravel. And, I mean, almost held the full drift angle there. So, maybe inspired by Formula Drift that's at Long Beach this weekend and said, well, I've got a big engine. I've got a lot of horsepower. Drift car, maybe? But drift car, no, is the answer.
He's had quite a number of spins now. I wonder if his tires are now starting to suffer from flat spotting, and maybe that's causing him to have a little bit more of a sketchy drive.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said for that. And for those of you who haven't driven a whole lot of Le Mans Ultimate, and also maybe just haven't spun like the rest of us do, once you start to get a flat spot, there is such a savage vibration through your wheel that it's just uncomfortable to drive. And also with those flat spots, you're more likely to lock up on them again. It generally makes them for the car a bit more uncomfortable, and really isn't super ideal. Diego Cosio, I have to say, on the outset of this race, it was very much a front engine show, but as time's gone on, I think as mistakes have started to happen towards the middle part of this race, you know, lack of mistakes for the Porsche driver and some good pace means that they are currently a second, just a bit over a second adrift from the race lead, as a brace of Lexuses are in the front of the shot. I think they could possibly all be on different laps at this point. I think maybe they are, but race leader going to need to find their way through. That's the car in 10th, getting well and truly out of the way, and we'll be through on the next one. But no big drama outside of what we saw at the end of lap 1, and nothing into turn 7 yet. I'm gonna maybe knock on some wood, but no deep and silly sends.
Yeah, I'm actually I'm pretty happy to see that, actually. I do like to see these races go on for a long period of time with no drama. I do like to see some hard racing, but I think there's something to be said about the difference between hard racing and race-ending incidents. So it's good to see that most of the drivers, well, we have this incident now, but most of the drivers have had a pretty clean race so far. And yeah, I think that's just another testament to the skill of these drivers.
Absolutely. I weirdly had a sixth sense for that. I was gonna jump on board with Paul Wagner regardless, and he just happened to be backwards when I did. That was coming down towards turn 5, which I claimed as the most difficult corner on this circuit in a hypercar, and sort of proving my point, but I don't really want my point proven. I don't really want anybody to be backwards, but Wagner shaking it off, getting back going again. And Tyler, now that we're back over half distance, it's going to sort of start to show where everybody is on energy, and it looks like just about everybody's going to make it. Maybe the exception of Diego Cosio, maybe Jones, Tillery and Prado. I think they're going to be about a lap or two short, but I'm impressed. I'm impressed about the Lyco.
Yeah, I was just checking out the energy between everybody, and I actually had the idea that most of the GTs are going to have to make a stop unless they start fuel saving now. As we were crossing the 30-minute mark, we had a couple of drivers that were down to the 48% and lower. So unless they start fuel saving, they could be cutting it really close. Surprised to see that the hypercars seem to be doing a whole lot better on energy, even while they seem to be pushing pretty hard. Obviously, we haven't watched many onboards to see if anybody's doing some good Lyco, but from the pace, I mean, it looks like most of them are pushing.
Your wish is my command. Coming into turn 1, the race leader. That is about the lift I expected, because that is about the lift that I do when I'm trying to push this car over an hour. That is a deep lift into 1. And actually a bit of lift mid-corner for 3. Let's see if we'll do it into turn 4. Yep. That is the full Lyco strategy for the race leader, and free tips on how to Lyco through the first sector. And if you want tips on how to Lyco through the entire lap, I don't know. Gas, that's pretty much what I do. But no,
lap target system.
That's true. There is that. So I for a long time, admittedly, I had no idea that system existed. I really had no idea that's what that system was for. And then I started using it, and then I started getting distracted by it. So now I fully just I Lyco off vibes, as I like to say. I sort of will use the energy bar at the bottom of the tack to sort of see, oh, how am I doing? You know, this is my target. How many laps do I have when I'm crossing the line? Am I sort of on the bubble? Do I need to lift a bit more? And it seems to work out pretty well. I like to hail myself as a pretty reasonable endurance driver, considering I really only do that. Not fast, but I do enjoy it. But no, I impressed that the hypercars are kind of doing better than the LMGT3s, because let's not forget, LMGT3s generally just have a greater fuel mileage than the big boy prototypes do. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think that comes down to the amount of time spent under power in mid corner for the LMGT3s. It seems like the hypercars are able to coast a little bit more through the corner, and that just that little bit per corner of you having that coast phase will change the total that you're using per lap by a good margin when you do it correctly. And then conjunction with a good Lyco, like we just saw with Barnes, yeah, it makes a big difference.
I could not have said it better myself. But yeah, it is... Lift and coast is sort of a skill, and perhaps an underappreciated skill. But it is something that is almost counterintuitive, you think, to how a racing driver thinks. It's like, we're going fast. Why would I intentionally go slower? Because you learn why, especially in Le Mans Ultimate, with how unbelievably powerful the lift and coast is. It is a super powerful tool, and races like this where you can make the hour, it's pretty much win or lose. Are you gonna lift and coast properly and make the hour, or are you gonna lose the race?
Yeah, I agree. I think the lift and coast factor and the importance that it has with these cars is exacerbated by the use of virtual energy, because as you are not applying any throttle, you're not pulling down your energy consumption at all. So as long as that torque sensor is not reading anything, you're at a zero flat energy output. So I think with fuel saving, it's a little bit harder in terms of cars that aren't using virtual energy, but once you start getting into managing the actual energy side of things, Lyco becomes an incredibly powerful tool. And you mentioned earlier that it can be distracting, and I think that largely comes down to the layout of the car. Some of the cars are much easier to see the Lyco lights, and I think that those cars typically have a much better output from the drivers being able to see the lights and follow the Lyco a whole lot better. And then they end up with much better efficiency over the course of the race, and then that pays dividends when it comes down to time in the pits.
Yeah, and for those of you who are a bit unfamiliar with the Lyco system we're talking about in the car. Basically, in your MFD, if you go over to the fuel display, you can tell it what your target is. Basically, I want, this plus 1 lap, plus 2, 3, 4. I think one race I set it to plus 5 to see if I could do it. I did it. I was going about 6 seconds a lap slower than I should have been, but it was definitely funny to try. But as you are coming into the brake zone, as you're coming ahead of it, these purple lights will show up somewhere on your dash, depending on where the display is, basically saying, "Hey, lift now." And it's a super neat system. The fact that such a thing exists in real life is just a testament to what awesome engineering race cars are at pretty much any form or fashion. It's superb, but I don't like it. I get distracted. Well, it's weird. I drive distracted, but if I get too distracted, then it becomes a problem. Anybody who drives with me knows I pretty much talk constantly when I'm in the car.
The 963, that's one of its benefits, is the lights in both the 963 and the 992 are readily visible pretty much at any portion of the cockpit that you're sitting in. I think some of the other cars, like for example the AMG, those are just based on where the shift lights are, so that becomes much more difficult to manage. Paying attention to the shift lights and the Lyco lights, plus also if you're having wheel spin or any sort of ABS activation, because they're all sharing the same lights. So I think largely that comes down to the design of the car and how the engineers design the car to help the driver know what they need to be looking at, especially in these longer endurance races where the pit stops are what make and break the race. Now, when it comes to the LMP3, obviously you don't get those lights because there's no virtual energy, and the LMP2s as well. So that becomes a whole different ballgame because fuel saving and energy saving are two vastly different disciplines that these drivers need to be familiar with.
Yeah, and I will say, usually one of I think the whole virtual energy system as a measure to assist the balance of performance, it is, I think, a wonderful execution. I think it's also great because when you are in your car, you know what everyone else is using in terms of virtual energy. You get to see that is public information on the pit wall, and usually in the LMP2 and the LMP3 class, you have no idea what everybody else is using in terms of fuel. One of the interesting things about this broadcast program is you can. So anybody who's listening, anybody who wishes, oh man, I do a lot of prototype racing, but I wish I could know how much fuel they have, download broadcast control, open up the live timing screen, and it's kind of cheating, but also it's public and they're pulling information directly from LMU, so I don't know, but I think it's I think it's neat from a broadcasting standpoint. I think it's fun for endurance racing because as someone who gets really obsessed with fuel saving, I want to know if I'm doing better than everybody. So I pretty much use that to be like, yes, I'm on target, or no, I need to save more because I got to outsave the rest of the field for some reason. But it's the now the battle for the saving versus the save not. But it's sort of coming back a bit closer, though. I think Diego Cosio, Tyler, might be looking to make this raise. He's sort of at a 2.5-3% deficit on virtual energy, but he's definitely looking ready to get this done on circuit.
His pace is definitely good. I mean, their pace is similar as they just crossed the line. They're only about a tenth apart from each other, but I think the consistency, the Porsche is just really strong with the corners on this track. When I raced this track, this was my first time really ever driving the 992 and LMU, and it was incredibly stable. Even getting into very heavy braking, the ABS just doesn't seem to kick in like the other cars do, and you can really feel confident under heavy braking, even into some of these turns like this one, where you're already somewhat getting ready to turn and you're going ahead and applying the brakes. From a prototype driver, that's almost unintuitive because you got to worry about locking up because the brakes are so much stronger. So it's different philosophies for driving, but it looks like these guys are definitely they're good. They're about to get argy bargy with each other. For sure.
I was gonna say you really don't want to go alongside in turn 9, and I think Diego Cosio maybe pushed it a bit too far. I don't know, but perhaps a steward's inquiry might be undergone for that. But at the very least, we can get another replay of it, hopefully from a slightly different angle. But no, this is the wrong replay. My apologies. Here we are correct. See if I can get a slightly different camera angle. See up onto the curb, and it's just
inner curb is going to push you out.
Yeah, it's just not really a place that you want to go too wide. Not really a place where I'd ever recommend such a thing. But as I'm not a steward, and as I'm trained to say, it is my opinion that perhaps the Porsche may be a bit at fault for that measure. But as I trust, and I'm sure Tyler, as you know, we've got some great stewards in LMU, so they will make the right call if a ticket is filed, which chances are it will.
Well, for the Friday series, we do our stewarding a little different. So the admins actually do a full race review over here on the Friday side. So myself, Tetsuo Hideyoshi, and Ricky Bobby will be reviewing all the incidents of the race after this. And we take a lot of time and a lot of detail to analyze these situations. We look at it from the outcome of it, but we try to look at it from all the different angles that we could possibly do. And it did look like after the incident that the Porsche did slow down some to kind of allow that gap to come back down, which shows good sportsmanship. Sometimes you accidentally cause an incident, and the best thing you can do as a driver is let that gap come back down, because it shows that you made a mistake, and you want to race clean, and that it wasn't a fair overtake. So
yeah, there's
a lot that goes into stewarding, though, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And I say I'm not a steward, though I sort of know what goes into to making decisions like that. And everybody sort of appreciates all your efforts on that, because at the end of the day, we're here to race hard, but we're also here to race fair. And if a decision's got to be made, a decision's got to be made. I was asked in chat where the 84 of Figgy Earnhardt was, so I'm giving a little bit of onboard screen time to that, and then in just a moment I will throw Mr. Dean on the screen, because it sounds like there's a whole squad, the whole family is here watching Dean, and just for that they deserve a little bit of screen time at the moment. And actually, believe it or not, Dean was already on screen just a bit. Definitely a bit of a struggle night for them, but still absolutely plowing on. And same onboard treatment, of course. I don't pick favorites here. I give what the people want, and we'll see is Dean Muslio has just oodles and oodles more virtual energy than the rest of the field. Expecting any lifted coast here at all. This is sort of driving a bit more in anger. I think some earlier incidents or some earlier pit stops, and overfueling sometimes happens. But though these two are I gotta say, I call it it's almost a faux fight. They are on different laps, but they're sort of sharing the same part of circuit, and I think most importantly, they're having a bit of fun with it. They're not quite trading paint, but they're giving the people a show, and that is, I don't know. There's some beauty to that, and coming down now, Tyler, to the last 12 and a half minutes. And I don't think we'll know who's really made it and who's not on virtual energy till the last sort of 2 or 3 laps. Maybe the first people might sort of go in 4 laps to go, I'd say. So the next couple of minutes, but I think all 5 of the remaining hypercars, though Louis Carmona is kind of a bit of a cheat because they started 6 laps late, so they really didn't have to fuel save. I think they're all going to make it.
I do think the hypercars are going to be good to go. Ricky Bobby has the lowest, but I think 20% will still carry him the rest of the way home. There's quite a number of the LMGT3s there that are getting quite low. I don't think they're going to make it. I think they're going to need a splash and dash to at least make it to the end.
Yeah, it looks like it's coming that way, but perhaps as a result of maybe seeing on the fuel calc, maybe running a bit low, Ricky Bobby having to back off just a bit because Paul Wagner is truly reeling him in. It could be a result of something we talked about earlier, which is the hard tires really coming good in the final few minutes. They are nice and close, or were nice and close coming through, and I don't know, this might give us a one opportunity, which is see how Wagner's coming through and also listen in to hear if Ricky Bobby's doing any lift and coast, which initially doesn't sound like he is.
Yeah, I think at this point he's focused on trying to maintain the gap, and fuel saving is he's either gonna make it from where he is now, or he's gonna try to just build a gap to the pit stop.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot you can do in 10 minutes, fuel saving wise. I mean, maybe you can well, actually, you can technically save a whole lap of fuel in about 2 laps if you go at 60 kph around the circuit. But as far as the race is concerned, there's not a whole lot you can do without losing a heap of time with only a handful of laps to go. So there is the other chance that Ricky Bobby just thinks they're good on fuel and thinks they can make it from here. But I a little bit of doubt for me.
I think at this point he might be banking on traffic helping him too, and it doesn't look like it's going to work right here. But I think that could change the dynamic as well as he gets a bigger gap because of traffic. He may be able to switch to a little bit more of a LICO strategy just to maintain the gap that the traffic creates. But with this field being so spaced out now, it may not be a feasible strategy for him as he's going forward for the rest of this 10 minutes. 8 minutes and 55 seconds. Yeah,
I think if it was maybe if it was a full 44 car ELMS grid, maybe there'd be a lot more opportunities to lift behind traffic, but it's too little too late. But I think the driver that thinks they're good on fuel is Chris Barnes. They did just put in another fastest lap of the race, and though they're about dead even on virtual energy with the next closest car, Ian Almo. They're managing the pace for sure, but the pace is very quick. A yellow flag is out for Rafael Kanika. Is he going to lose a bit of time, lose a bit of position? He's going to do a little bit of both, and having to go the long way around. And uh-oh, is it parking up? No, don't DNF. No, no, you were so close. 8 minutes to go. Let's see what actually got them there. Well, that's not what I wanted to see. One moment.
He's looking a little squirrely there, so he may have gotten some damage.
Yeah, let's see what it was. So we're coming up towards turn 9 now, and turning in. Oh yeah, a bit of a wiggle. Ah,
Big impact.
that's a huge impact, and Raphael may be thinking that there's not any time to gain from that. There's not any more to it, but Ricky Bobby's found himself. The pressure was on and the move was made, and it seems like maybe in a bit of a unorthodox position, maybe a bit of a lockup for him down towards 10, trying to find their way back through. And I'll get a replay shortly of the move that we missed. I want to see where these two are going to be at coming out of the final couple of corners. There's Ian Almo that they've caught up to. Ian Almo's going really slowly. I think something's happened to them. That Cadillac is absolutely damaged. So another thing to look at towards the end, but it was going so well for the V8 motor enthusiasts of Ian Almo, and it sort of slipped away in the final moments. See, it doesn't look like Ricky Bobby's got the pace, but here's the move we missed earlier on. Hit that button one more time. There we go. Coming down towards 7. It's just a mistake from Ricky Bobby. I was going to say, there's no way that he made the move into turn 5, but a mistake running a bit wide out of the hairpin into the gravel means momentum favors the Porsche, and the Porsche gets ahead and is now staying ahead. Tyler, let's maybe see what happened to our dear friend in the Cadillac. I'm wondering if it's turn 1. Might be turn 1. My spidey senses are telling me that something occurred in 1. See? Oh, looking good. We're fine. A bit. No, we're good. We're still good. We're still good. It happens eventually, I swear. Oh, there it is. It's actually coming into 3. Boy, that's not going well. Because I think Ian Almo is in his pit box and he's going to be there for quite some time, but that's not something you see a lot, is a mistake like that coming up to turn 3. You're usually pretty squared off once you complete the chicane, and that is certainly unfortunate. Certainly unfortunate for Ian.
Yeah, that was a very odd place to have a mistake like that. I think with the overtake Wagner made on Bobby might have been due to the tire wear. I think these hard tires are really starting to come in to lend an advantage this late in the race. And I did notice that we had a number of GT3s coming out of the pits.
Yeah, the order has been shuffled. Trying to confirm who has pitted and who hasn't, but fortunately, I think the universe is going to do it for me. That in the top 8. Hold on 1 second. Drop that number down. We can see who all pitted, and it does just seem like the 2 Mustangs of Tillery and Prado that didn't make it. As I say it, Jones has now entered pit lane for their stop, but 3.5 minutes ago, a lot of cars running on fumes.
I think Lloyd is definitely going to have to make a stop. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. 2% will get you to the end of the lap, but absolutely no further. It's 3 laps remaining there or thereabouts. Everybody sort of needs around 7.5, 8% virtual energy to do it. So everybody's who's, I'd say, 7% and above should be able to make this to the end.
This should be interesting for our top fives, as most of them are sitting at around that 7% mark. Looks like Tetsuo Hideyoshi has made his way all the way up to P4. Todd Timber in tow again.
He has indeed, and it's I'm wondering if he's maybe going to get another position out of it, but he's got about as much energy as the rest of the field. I'm just going to leave that thing up. So everybody at home gets to see what we're seeing. Is it's going to be close for Ricky Bobby, who actually got up past Paul Wagner again. I think Wagner had a bit of an inky dink just a moment ago, so we'll see what that looked like for him. It's another case of a wiggle in turn 3. But this time managing just barely to save it. Definitely a nice crunchy flat spot to boot, but interesting. The tires are sort of starting to fall off maybe for these guys, and it's starting to get a little bit sketchy in the first couple of corners, but no, it cannot be overstated, Tyler. What a really solid drive Tetsuo has had to come up through the fields. I mean, bog last in the standings, and good pace, good strategy has them in fourth, which as a way to start off your championship, it could always be worse.
I think it's mostly consistency on his end. I don't think he's had any issues outside of one yellow flag towards the beginning. But for the hypercars, I think the issue with that coming into turn 3, I believe that is coming from an imbalance in what grip the tires can give. I think those mediums on the inside are they're slipping, and they get on the power to come out wide on that turn, and they slip, and the hards are still able to provide the grip, but the medium tires just can't hold on anymore.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing is that the two cars that we've seen lose it there are the ones running the hard tire.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I think that can't be a coincidence. That has to be something correlated there. So, and maybe just one of those give and take traits.
I think I'm wondering if it's that hard that they're running on the rear, because I know that the hard tire, the hard front left, is absolutely the preferred tire strategy in these hypercars, especially for longer races. Once the endurance calendar comes around, the team endurance calendar comes around to Barcelona in a couple of months, we'll see how it plays out. A little bit of friendly, not so friendly flash from Paul Wagner to Ricky Bobby, and Chris Barnes still on the final lap of the race, crossing the line to actually put in the fastest lap. I was too enamored by the fight between these two coming into the final lap that I completely missed our leader come across. Cameron Magruder crossed the line, as he didn't drive like a dingus, so he ended up finishing in first. A quick peek on where our Guillermo Parrott is. He's going to come across the line in just a second to take victory in round 1. A supremely clinical drive from him is I think Ricky Bobby's going to make this race.
He is at 0.4%, so he is very close to being given a penalty for energy exceeded allowance. He is at 0.4. I think he might make it.
I think he might. Let's see. Oh, he's at 0%. Is he just completely coasting? He's completely coasting across the line. He made it, though. He absolutely made it across the line. And
it read 0.0 on the leader, or the layout overlay. So
yeah.
See.
But the key thing is there was no penalty pop up. So a couple other drivers still to cross the line. Actually, ahead of this man is Tetsuo, who came through the field and actually ended up finishing third, though I have a feeling that somebody might have disappeared quickly after the session concluded, so that might not be a net third. I can't say. Did we get another late race stop that I completely missed? Any of you who have watched enough of my broadcast know that when it comes to the end of the race, I almost always miss things. So sorry. But I'm not sure if that's somebody leaving the session so quickly that everything broke, or maybe a late pit stop. So we'll call it a tentative podium for Tetsuo, as I will now share the overall results. We're not going to start with the LMP3s. I apologize. But after an hour with no pit stops in the hypercar field, Chris Barnes, it was a mixture of pace and absolutely no mistakes. I think pretty much every other hypercar had a moment or two outside of Chris Barnes. So sometimes all you need to do is keep it between the white lines. Ricky Bobby, though, absolutely stretching it to the limit on fuel, doing just enough to stay ahead to take second. Paul Wagner takes third. Ian Almo takes fourth. Louis Carmona fifth. Javier Sanabria, a disappointing, did not finish. Magruder won over Magruder 2. Didn't seem like it was much of a fight, but Cameron didn't drive like a dingus, so good for him on his championship start, though hopefully it won't be just the two of them for the rest of the champ. Guillermo Paré took victory in the LMGT3 field. Phil Brown, second place. Tetsuo Hideyoshi up into third. Todd Tillery, fourth. And Gabriel Prado, two of the cars that absolutely needed to stop, but the highest finishers of those who did take that pit stop. Brian Jones, sixth. Andre Lloyd, seventh. Figgy Earnhardt in eighth. Bortz Bornerson in ninth. Dean Muslio taken 10th. All the family members watching just cringed deeply as I couldn't even say the first name, let alone the last name. As we begin our did not finishers in LMGT3 with Diego Cosio, Rafael Kanika, and Mickey Kajlanen in the Lexus, with Rob Ruggiero, I think, rounding out her did not finishers, and the other three not taking part. I gotta say that Tyler, I think you did a stellar job tonight.
Thank you. I appreciate it. This was actually quite a refreshing perspective on races. Is actually to commentate. Is I actually had a good time. Thank you.
Does that mean we can expect you again? Expect you more?
Oh yeah.
Maybe
Until I
not just
return to the grid,
in this series, but maybe in others as well.
I would be open to that. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's wonderful. But I think that is going to top it off for us this evening. Tyler, any final words from you? Any bits of wisdom? I like to give people homework at the end of broadcasts, which usually just devolves into go watch racing. Any homework?
Yeah. Go watch racing. No, I think this race was a clear cut picture of consistency and how important that is. That's something that I've learned a lot in the last couple of races that I did. Consistency is sometimes more important than outright pace and strategy, for sure.
It's maybe not the most exciting thing to talk about, but man, strategy can be everything, and consistency itself is a little bit boring. Rather than going a million miles an hour, than going 4, but it makes a difference. And if today wasn't an example of that, or enough of as an example to maybe learn a bit of lift and coast, then, well, I don't know what to tell you. Maybe that's the homework. Go if you've never done Lyco, go practice a bit of Lyco. Promise it will end up paying off at some point. That'll feel incredibly boring at the moment. But for my watching racing homework for everybody, there's a lot this weekend. There's the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach, which is IMSA coming back. This time not in Florida, unfortunately for me. But that will be tomorrow check to see what your local times are. I don't actually know when it starts locally, but it starts tomorrow. There is also Imola at WEC on Sunday. As conveniently it appears in the track cinematic behind me. It's almost like I timed that. But if you want more endurance racing, though I guess Long Beach isn't really an endurance race, but if to watch the WEC season kickoff, definitely watch Imola. There's also I know IndyCar for those Formula open wheel enjoyers, not Formula racing, but open wheel racing enjoyers. That is also at Long Beach on Sunday. Hosts of support series going on for all those races as well. So if you're interested in any of that, definitely check it out. Definitely support series more. Watch that stuff because I got to tell you, Cup racing, Carrera Cup, Super Trofeo, MX5s, all that stuff is honestly sometimes more exciting than just about anything else you could possibly watch. So, Lyco and support series. That's the key takeaways from tonight's broadcast. Of course, if you're interested in joining what we do here at ARL, head over to americasracingleague.com, join the Discord, check out SimGrid, see all the events. We may be slightly biased, but it is a superb community that's being built here and some awesome racing with some awesome racers. Thank you to all of our partners, of course. Again, I should be back on Sunday, maybe, though I might be taking a week off or I guess a day off because I'm a busy man and this busy man needs a night off. But we'll see. Maybe I'll come back because quite honestly, I can't get enough of this stuff. Thank you all the drivers for giving me something to watch. Thank you to Mr. Tyler Moore for joining us in the box and look forward to having him back. Thank you to all of you who watched and supported drivers and support what we do here. Be good to yourself. Eat something that's really bad for you, but that tastes really good. Just like once this weekend. Be nice to animals. Call your dad. Yeah, I think that's all for me. That's all of my post race homework for you all. But thank you guys so much for being here. For myself and from ARL, that is all we got for tonight. Thank you one final time, and I look forward to seeing you all very soon.